This makes perfect sense for a 17-year-old. I'm sorry, it makes a lot of sense. Like, there are 20-some-year-olds who don't have it together. There are 40-year-olds who don't have it together. I can't expect a 17-year-old Shiloh to have it together. October 30th. You remembered. So did you, punk. Shiloh chuckled self-consciously as Liz smirked at him. There was an affable moment where she became serious again. I liked you when we were kids. I wanted to know you now. That's what... I liked him too when we were kids. That's what upset me the most, the idea that maybe you only wanted to be rid of your old friends.
Aww.
Aw, Lizzie, you're too good to need someone like me in your life. That's the truth. I'm not worth the effort. Yeah, well, it's not... Well, to be fair, Shiloh, I'm going to disagree with you there, because that's not for you to decide. You're not... You cannot decide that for other people, just as much as you cannot use your personality to revolve around other people's happiness. Except for with unusual people who have odd taste. Then she straightened up in the sand, brushing her dress back out. That's an incredibly annoying thing to say. It's insane. You've only changed in stupid ways and stayed the same for the rest. That's fair. Is it? It means maybe I have unusual taste. You could have stuffed Shiloh's entire hat into his mouth with how wide he opened it. No. Why is... It's just... This part feels really strange because all of the rest of this game seems to be really good about giving me the choice to... It gives me the choice to respond or feel the way that I think Vaughn should feel. And it seems... This feels very railroaded. Like, so many of my options feel railroaded to be very anti-Shiloh, and that's Vaughn. Vaughn, I don't think is feeling that way. Really? Well, as much as mother hen being compelled to look out for their chick, no matter how useless they are, it is unusual. I can't help it. You haven't changed that much after all either. You're still Shiloh. You're painfully still Shiloh.
You're welcome.
I brought you here. I'm not going to abandon you. It has to be someone's job to look out for and keep an eye on you. See, that's the thing. I still, even now, I accept Shiloh for who he is. Warts and all. Like, he's not a perfect person. But I disagree that he is... I disagree with him that he's not a person that's worth having in my life. I totally disagree with that. I recognize that he's got issues and needs to work it, but I accept those issues. I accept them. That's why I'm not angry at him. That's why I'm not upset at him. That's why I don't feel as hurt, because I understand that it's not 100% his fault. He's not purposely trying to hurt us. And he's so... And it hurts when he says things like, I'm not worth it. I'm not worth it. Because he's so self-deprecating. Because he himself believes that he's not worth it. And so, but I'm like, no, you are worth it. You don't get to tell me how I feel about you. And Game, you don't get to tell me that I want to stuff a hat into his mouth. Sorry, Game. You were so good before this, but this part is... I love this part, but I also hate this part. I love this part because, of course, we get to see Shiloh. I hate this part because the game is railroading us a lot. With her surety returning, she pulled herself up off the ground and glowered down at Shiloh with her arms folded. No. Now, I do want an apology for everything done behind our backs when you could have opened with all of what you just said. She's right. I agree with Liz there. You should have given us a real chance, or stayed home. This stunt was rude, to me, and Vaughn, and Cove too. I don't disagree with her on that. I don't disagree with Liz on that at all. As if bringing the baby chick comparison to life, Shiloh dutifully did as he was told.
Sorry.
Sorry, Lizzie, Vaughn, Cove, everyone. I didn't want to cause problems or ruin the day. And you don't have to accept just because I'm saying it. Not everybody needs to like everyone. I still like you, Shiloh. Shush, I still like you. Alright then, you were kind of mean sometimes when we were kids, but I wasn't very nice to you either. I agree with that. I was not pleased when Cove was mean to Shiloh either. All this recent stuff isn't really something to make about me, so I'm not gonna hold on to it. I mean, as long as you're not gonna keep upsetting people from now on. Thanks, Cove. I'll avoid doing that in the future. He then changed his focus to you. His expression was curious. He wanted to know where your feelings landed on him. Were you pretending to have a good time with us today. I don't think he was pretending. I'll accept your apology. I'm not forgiving you. Don't even think about it. You couldn't give him a straight answer. You shouldn't forgive him. That's crazy. You gave him a faint smile, feeling sort of relieved. There's no hug. I want to just go and hug this boy. All I've wanted to do this entire game since we were kids is hug this boy. And I haven't been able to hug this boy. I'll accept your apology. Shiloh was being Shiloh, and all you could do was accept that he was going to be Shiloh. I've accepted that a long time ago. Vaughn accepted that a long time ago.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vaughn, do you want to stay for what's left of the evening? As you got to your feet, you thought about it. Heck yes, you were ready to give Shiloh another chance. Yeah. I still like Shiloh. If Liz is looking out for Shiloh, someone has to look out for her. I'm kind of interested to see what happens next. I just feel sorry for you, Shiloh. I want to stay together. I still like Shiloh. Despite everything he said and all the complicated feelings knowing him had brought you still couldn't bring yourself to hate him. His smile grew delicately. I want to be friends. Shiloh jumped to his feet, straightening his cap on the landing. Lynn would be so proud. You didn't all leave. Cove rose as well, but with a groan. Cove, you don't have to be his friend. You don't have to. But I want to be his friend. Another group mate?
Nope.
No, he's our group supervisor. He's also friends with my mom. And if you were still wondering, that group is for people who have difficult to deal with attitudes. Jeremy and Nate being it makes a lot of sense, huh? This is why, like, I'm not sure if this particular graphic novel would be a game for me, because it seems like the vast majority of the guys, probably with the exception of Shiloh, the vast majority of the romanceable characters would not necessarily be my type. Would not be my type. But Shiloh, I think Shiloh would still be my type in that game. So we'll see. I might play it just for him. Because I want to know more about him and his issues. Because then maybe I can actually hug this kid. I can actually hug this boy in that game. Shiloh spoke simply and finished his thought with a breezy shrug. Liz sighed loudly, and then she smiled ruefully at him. I'm very much surprised that there is an ad that just pops up and says, if you want to download this other game with Shiloh, click here. Jeez, Shiloh, you've certainly made yourself other people's problems since leaving. Well, now you all know me better too. That is true. And that's all I wanted. That's all I wanted from this, was to know him better. Thanks for sharing. A small smirk appeared on her face as she watched Shiloh. You didn't fail to notice the hint of sarcasm in her voice. And thank you, Vaughn. Accompanied by a warm smile, Liz's tone was sincere. I can keep hanging out with everyone too. Sheepish, Cove rubbed his arm. Liz's smile stretched into a grin at that news. Aw, thanks for sticking around. Well then, what now? The four of you stared at each other in silence until Shiloh tentatively made a suggestion. Would anyone want to build a sandcastle? Do you want to build a sandcastle? Because Shiloh here is back and trying to be fun. That sounds ideal. Your old sister began to truly relax again, and you were glad to see it. Glancing at Cove, he nodded in agreement with Liz. Yeah, I like that idea too. It had been a long time since you last built a sandcastle together. You're already looking forward to burying your feet in the sand. Then we're all agreed. Come on, gang, let's go play at the beach. The sun was far across the sky when the four of you trailed down from the park to the shore in comfortable silence. It was hard not to think back on how familiar it all felt. You never thought the four of you would ever be here together again. It wasn't long before you were sitting on the wet ground, busily pushing as much sand as possible into the lump. You all worked together quietly, but every so often a chuckle would drift through because of the castle's lopsided development. At one point, Cove stretched his legs out completely, and the incoming wave started reaching his toes. He initially was caught off guard and almost jumped into the castle, but ultimately didn't resist the water. After that, the group worked with purpose to finish before the ocean could tear it all down, though even still Liz ended up taking time to be particular about the castle's rudimentary design. Of course. Shiloh, of course, backed up all her plans. Cove was a dissenting voice, wanted to keep things more laid back. Things got pretty boisterous. Being there and doing this with Cove, Liz, and Shiloh, it felt weirdly different, yet also weirdly the same. So, what happened with the amusement park? You were pretending not to know, weren't you? Both you and your sister glanced at Shiloh, silently re-asking the question. Under the weight of all three of you taking a turn to ask about it, Shiloh finally gave in. I might have an idea of what he meant.
So...
The thing is, there's someone we're both familiar with, and she asked Jeremy to the amusement park one time. He accepted, but just complained about it, so I suggested that maybe me and her should go together. Jeremy also agreed that it'd be more fun to go around the park with me. That's what he meant when he said he was on my side. She still went with him, and now Jeremy's embarrassed to admit not that he was turned down, but that he was the preferred option then. It's hard to believe. Anyway, Jeremy could think that I'm mad I got passed over, but it doesn't matter if she said yes or no. All that counts is if she knows I'm totally there when she needs it. And she does. Uh-huh. Sure, Shiloh. You're so reliable. I know, right? Okay, thanks for telling us.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. I like Shiloh's voice. Smiling to yourself, you watched the three of them absorbed in the moment. It was nice, and you hoped everyone else was having just as much fun. It was sort of incredible that you were able to have another evening like this in your life. And the feeling of odd serendipity wasn't only with Shiloh. You had also gotten a sort of closure with the old villain of that one summer long ago. That's true. Just like old times, the four of you stayed on the beach until night fell, and the moon was high in the sky. Then the time had come to say goodbye. Shiloh needed to get back to his mom and back to where his life truly was now. Before leaving the beach, Shiloh pulled you aside and gave you his number. Yes! I can keep in touch with him! Yes! Just in case you wanted to keep in touch. Heck yes! Liz already had it, though he wanted to give it to you personally. That's so sweet! Can I just hug him now? You weren't expecting that, but it was comforting to know that this didn't have to be a permanent goodbye. The four of you walked up the neighborhood street as one, tired smiles covering the familiar faces around you. The wind gently blew by, sand dragged behind you, and its hard-to-grasp feeling of contentment carried you through to the end of this road. It was a good night. After that, Shiloh disappeared from Sunset Bird once again, though this time it wasn't heartbreaking or hard to understand. This time it was just another part of life. And it helped that Liz had her own phone and laptop and could easily check in on him from time to time. That was nice too. I'm really glad that we were able to end it so that we could still have ties with Shiloh. Again, I loved and hated that DLC, that moment, a lot. And I've explained why, so... yeah. Maybe I should have been angrier at Shiloh. Maybe I should have, but I wasn't. And I didn't want to... I did not appreciate the game railroading us. But yeah, cool, awesome surprise seeing Shiloh again. I loved it. I loved it. But we'll see. Hopefully, I'm very tempted. After that, I am even more tempted now to play that other game. I probably will not be paying much attention to Nate and Jeremy at all. I don't know about the other ones. Everett, I don't know about the other characters, but we shall see. Okay, so pickings are a bit slim. We have Something on the Water and Driving, two of my least favorite things. And I was told to leave Happiness for the end, so that's what I'm gonna do. You know what? Just because it's one of the... I think it'll still be interesting going boating. Now that we've broken up, you know, having a jet ski thing with Serendipity. Let's do boating now. And then I can do Drive, and then we'll end with Happiness. You perched at the kitchen island, whiling away the minutes until your sister joined you downstairs. There was quite an adventure planned today. Lee was coming down near the Sunset Bird area as part of what she called a little trip. Apparently, she thought how nice it would be to go on a private boat trip this summer to celebrate graduation and everything. What might have been an idle dream for most people turned into reality in Lee's hands. You'd been invited along for the ride by your best cousin. I have a feeling Lee's family is very well off. It was kind of insane she could make that happen. You were eagerly anticipating the adventure. It'll be great to see her. The idea of being on a ship worried you a little. You were pretty mellow about it all. I want to say this. Well, here's the thing. I don't like deep water, but I like being on a ship. I like being on a cruise. So this would not be accurate. So I'll say it'll be great to see her. You got to chat to Lee over the phone regularly, but it wasn't the same as hanging out in person. This visit was an unexpected treat. You weren't the only ones who was heading out on the trip. Liz was coming, of course. Your moms had invited, but hadn't been able to find the time to squeeze it in. And so the trip would only involve the kids of the family, a term that had stuck despite all three of you being adults now. Mom would have joked about cramping your style, but there was apparently plenty of room on the ship. Lee had been more than happy for you and Liz to bring other friends along if you wanted. But the trip out to Sunset Bird, and then even further out to where Lee and the boat would be, just wasn't feasible for most people. Not many folks lived close by. There was, naturally, one person around who would always be there for the ride, Cove. You were just about to meet up with him outside. Lee had been glad when you told her he'd be able to come along today. Just as you were thinking about your cousin and her plans for the day ahead, your phone sprang to life. Glancing at the display, you saw that incoming call was from Lee herself. You answered it without pause. Hey!
Hi!
Hey! She dove straight into the topic, the trip meetup. You could hear the trill of excitement in her voice. I'm here now and everything is all set. All you gotta do is show up and we'll be off. Woo! She's so pretty. Lee's so pretty. I like her earrings. Her eyes are so big and blue and deep. She spoke quickly, animated by anticipation. Hooray! You echoed her enthusiasm. Great, can't wait to see you. Liz and Cove are definitely still on board. Love it. 2, right? Yep. Wonderful. There's still a bit of time before you're due to set off. Is there anyone you want to extend a last-minute invite to? Derek. No need to keep the guest list sparse now. It's not like we'll be bumping into anyone else to join in when we're out in the middle of the ocean. Well, there's this new guy in the neighborhood I like. We're talking about that black and white guy? Not really. There's a new guy around. I think you might like him. No one really comes to mind that I'd want to be there. I'm gonna say there's a new guy around. I think you might like him. Ooh, you'd better invite him then. Alright, I'll do it. No idea if he'll be free, but I can try.
Talk to you later.
I'll let you go. I have to see if I want to see you here in the flesh. I had a feeling that we probably would need to do another scene with Baxter, I think is his name. Because we haven't really seen him much lately. She uttered the last words dramatically, making them sound more like a threat than a statement. Laughing, you shook your head. Lee chuckled along down the phone. Bye, Lee. Bye! Now that your attention was free, you looked over to the stairs to see if Liz had emerged yet, but there was still no sign of her. You figured you might as well go out and see if Cove was ready in the meantime. Besides, you needed to stop by Baxter's place to invite him along. Liz would catch up, you were sure. You called up the stairs to let her know the plan. You sent her a text on the updated plan. You left her to it, she'd figure it out. No, I mean, I call up the stairs. Liz, I'll be outside. Okay. With that, you hopped off the chair and headed out of the door. I figured if we're in the same house, might as well tell you in person. I'm not going to text you if we're in the same house. A sunny day greeted you. Shielding your eyes with a hand, you admired the house. It looked like good weather for heading out on the water. That was something. You heard your name called and turned automatically. Cove was the source of the call. He was standing halfway between his own house and yours. He waved at you as he walked over. You waited for him to join you. You took a step in his direction. You ran over to him. You ran over and threw your arms around him. You tore across the street and pounced on him, wrapping him tightly into a hug. The winded gasp you knocked out of him turned into a chuckle halfway. Hi. Hi, Cove. Ready to go? Cove nodded easily, blinking languidly in the sunlight. Then his mouth curved into a gentle smirk. First jet skis, now a boat. I love that he remembers that we were doing jet skis before. What aquatic transportation device is up next for us? My money's on a submarine. You laughed. It'd be an adventure. It better be a yellow submarine. It'd been an adventurous summer for sure. Cove grinned, pleased that he'd amused you. Cove glanced away, chewing his lip with consternation. Is it really okay for me to come? Of course. You don't even have to ask, right? Cove rubbed the back of his neck, frowning as if trying to work it out for himself. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. This is a really ritzy trip, and Lee's your cousin, not mine. Lee's your cousin, not mine. I mean, the two of us, me and Lee, are friends, maybe, but it's not like we've ever hung out on our own. I'm kind of worried I'm gonna be out of place. There's no way you'd be left out, Cove. She wants you there, I promise. Cove, you're so difficult. Don't you want to go on a boat? He looked at him concerned. She wants you there, I promise. Okay, you're right. Cove managed a small smile. The worry hadn't lifted from his rigid shoulders, but you could tell that he was attempting to project a little more confidence. I'm gonna go, don't worry. Good, because I don't want to be stuck there with Baxter. You were satisfied with that. I meant to tell you, I'm gonna be inviting Baxter too. I've got to check if he's in now before we run out of time.
Huh?
Huh? Really? I know, Cove. Cove was stunned. He hadn't been prepared for any extra surprises. He shook it off, however. Alright, it's not like this is already gonna be awkward for me. He was joking. Mostly. I'll wait for you here. Okay, Cove, I'll see you in a bit. You strolled over to the condo Baxter was staying in and rang the doorbell. You recall the last time you had been at Baxter's door. It was when he had invited you over for a visit. It was nice that you'd be able to extend your own invite this time. Before memories could claim you, the door slid open. Baxter looked out, his head tilted in interest.
Nice to see you.
Vaughn, what a nice surprise! He folded his arm over his chest, leaning casually against the doorframe. Is there something I can do for you? Want to head out on a boat ride with my family in Cove? We're taking a boat trip right now. Are you on board? So the thing is, you're going on a sort of trip now. You could come if you want to. I'm gonna be nicer. Want to head out on a boat ride with my family in Cove? His eyes widened only briefly, before resting back to his usual languorous expression. It was either an impressive show of restraint, or Baxter's life involved more impromptu boat trips than yours. Perhaps both.
I can do that.
I'd love to. So you didn't have plans already? That's great. To your surprise, Baxter's mouth curled into a little smirk. My schedule is always open for an improved itinerary. I'm flexible, remember? I'm sure you are, Baxter. I'm sure you are. Oh. He was not only agreeing to come on the trip, but apparently canceling some other plan in order to make it happen. Baxter was certainly something. Thanks for keeping me in mind. I think this is going to be fun. He slipped outside. After securing the door behind him, he swept out an arm and indicated for you to lead the way. The first stop was to collect Cove. He was waiting, as promised, where you left him. Cove! Good to see you! Hi. There was still no sign of Liz. You took the opportunity to bring Baxter up to date on the plan for today. He took in your words with interest. Only a minute or two more passed before the door to your house finally opened, Liz framed within it like a portrait. Unlike you, she had no need to shield her eyes with a hand in order to protect them from the sun's bright rays, as her hat was performing the job admirably. Spotting you, she headed straight over. She smiled warmly at you and Cove as she approached. Her attention then promptly turned into the group's new addition. It's nice to see you again, Baxter. His eyes closed as he bowed his head in a nod ever so slightly. And the same to you. Living on the same street had given Liz and Baxter the opportunity to get to know each other over the course of the summer. Though she'd spent less time with him than you'd anticipated that she wouldn't object to him tagging along on the trip. I asked him to join us today. Just as you'd expected, Liz didn't have much of a reaction to the change of plans. She merely raised her eyebrow. Oh. I feel like you and Lee will become fast friends, Baxter. You laughed, having thought the same thing to yourself. Okay, so we're shipping these two. On a ship. Shipping them on a ship. I'm good with that. Baxter smiled politely. With that, your little group piled into the car that looks exactly the same as every single person's car in this entire game. It had been decided in advance that you'd all be heading over in Cove's car. Then you set off for the journey down the coast, to where you'd be meeting Lee. You wound down the California shoreline with sparkling ocean waters on one side and craggy cliffs on the other. The world blurred by until eventually you made it safely to the large harbor. It was a far grander scale than the one near Mr. Holden's shop. Boats 2, 3, even 5 times larger could fit. Liz took charge from there, calling up your cousin to guide you the rest of the way. Lee did her best to explain where precisely the boat was docked. Given that she was doing it without seeing where you were, and that it was an area she was only slightly familiar with herself, she did a pretty good job. It took a bit of fumbling, a little retracing of steps, as your cousin and your sister had different definitions of orange, my favorite color. That was rusty brown, Liz had protested. But before too long you heard her voice calling you, not from the phone in Liz's hand, but over the wind rolling off the ocean. Searching for the source of the sound, you found her on the prow of a ship, jumping into the air and waving frantically for your attention. You'd arrived. Lee dashed from the bow, over the gangway, where you boarded one by one. Wow, Lee looks... I love... Girl, work it! I love her outfit. I'm wondering if she is Baxter's type. I feel like Baxter might be bisexual, or pansexual, or swing both ways, or however you want to refer to it as. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad you got here okay. You could tell, even if she had said nothing, her bright grin as she saw you all spoke loud and clear. "Hi, Lee." You smiled at her, you waved, you gave your cousin a high five, you squeezed her a side hug, you gave her a full-on hug. You wrapped both arms around her and pulled her tight against your chest. Squealing, Lee returned the hug just as tightly. After greeting you, Lee turned to look over the faces of the others who'd be joining you on your ocean voyage. Her attention was immediately pulled to the only one in the group that she'd not met before. Grinning, she approached him.
My pleasure.
"I'm Lee. I'm so excited to meet the mysterious new man on the block." "What a coincidence. I was looking forward to meeting our gracious host for the day. But I must confess, I'm not that mysterious. I'm rather open. I do hope that doesn't come as a disappointment." "Not at all. I can appreciate forwardness. Welcome aboard. Ooh, Lee." With that, she glanced over at the others.
Thank you.
"Lee, thanks again for taking us on this lovely trip." Cove hovered awkwardly behind you and your sister. Even with Liz's broad sun hat, he was too tall and the group was too small to hide effectively. He made fleeting eye contact with Lee, then looked away. "Hi, thank you for letting me come. The boat is cool." He chuckled nervously. Lee smiled, entertained by his bumbling phrasing. "Hi, Cove." She giggled as she spoke. Unable to hide her amusement, Cove lowered his head. You patted his arm reassuringly. You stood in front of him like a shield. You couldn't help but smirk at his reaction. You rubbed the bridge of your nose. You folded your arms. You patted his arm reassuringly. "We're all gonna have a good day. You don't have to laugh at him. Cove's little game of hide-and-seek is pretty funny." You didn't say anything. "We're all gonna have a good day." Cove smiled weakly at you. His face flushed. You could tell that he appreciated your show of support, but was still embarrassed about needing the help. The floor seemed to give beneath you. As Lee whooped with delight, you realized that the ship had pulled out into the water. It had been so steady while it was moored that you'd temporarily forgotten you weren't on solid ground. Now, as the boat rocked beneath your feet, there was no doubt you were truly setting sail. This is a really cool-looking boat, fancy schmancy. The little group dissipated into chatter or headed over to the railings to watch the ocean. You were ruffled by the breeze, which seemed stronger out of the water than it was back on the shore. The floor continued to rise and fall, reminding you of standing in a bouncy house while others jumped. With Lee's birthday party. No, and it is not Lee's birthday party. This is... Sorry. That was Miranda? I think? Okay, Lee is like... I got the two mixed up. It was refreshing. You were curious about how this trip would go. You felt unsure, but tried to ignore it. It was scary. You were hit with nausea. No, I would say... it was refreshing. As you let your surroundings truly sink in, you thought today was shaping up to be memorable. You were glad that you'd be unable to join Lee on this trip. "We can really get the party started now." "Oh, wonderful. What did you have in mind?" "Well..." The word hung in the air as your cousin stalled. It was clear that she didn't have something immediately in mind. Cove's eyes sparkled as he piped up. Can we get out of the boat? Like go swimming around in the deep ocean?" That is such a Cove thing to say. And I love him for it. Sometimes you'd swear that boy was part merman, the way he was continuously drawn to the water, but Liz immediately quashed the suggestion. No. Her tone left no room for debate. Baxter chuckled, combing a hand through his hair. "I'd prefer to stay on board too." Sorry, it's not that kind of boat trip. It isn't supposed to stop anywhere. If someone did end up off in the water, the captain would call the Coast Guard on us. Cove's shoulders slumped at the resounding rejection. All right. That's disappointing. Suck it up, Cove. We'll still find something fun to do, Cove. No way I'm getting in the water. You didn't comment, decision was made. No way am I getting in the water. Truthfully, there isn't that much we can do on the boat that we couldn't technically do back on land. I often take trips with my father on our boat. He always spends the time deep sea fishing. I'm not much of a fisherman, personally. Activities that could also be done while not on a boat sound excellent to me. Visibly bolstered by Baxter's support, Lee smiled warmly at him. My dad also takes me fishing sometimes, though we do it on the docks by Dad's shop. I'm not good at it either. Baxter snickered, his expression warm as he looked at Cove. He appreciated the delicate attempt to relate, especially with how standoffish Cove normally was with him. That's the fate of sons with their dads, apparently. How lucky we won't be doing that now. Yeah. Liz nodded. There's nothing wrong with some non-nautical themed activities. We could play a party game for all I care. Yeah, we'll do a party game. You saw her brow furrow for just a moment. She mentally conjured possibilities, then smoothed out as one came to mind. Oh, what about the one where something's written down and people give clues and one person has to guess what it is? Sure, I said I'd play a party game and I stand by it. Who's guessing first? Me, how about rock, paper, scissors decide? We could have an arm wrestling contest to choose. That's not my style.